Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our final event of the Crossroads Theater Company's Genesis Festival of New Plays, which we are co-presenting this year with an amazing, groundbreaking company from New York High Arts. My name is Ricardo Kahn. I'm from the Crossroads Theater Company, where we are celebrating 42 years. Yep. 42 years of productions that center our culture and our stories and perspectives, past, present, and future, as told through the lens of the Black experience, not only here in this country, but throughout the entire African diaspora. Genesis, you see, is our way of celebrating the new works in development, and supporting the new ideas, new forms in theater, and certainly exciting writers. So it's a celebration of the writer's voice. And you, see, this is your opportunity as well to get to meet them, to chat with them, and to ask questions, because they really do help them, since their works are works in progress. You'll meet them afterwards, and that's also where you will get to meet High Arts Interim Executive Director Aaron McKinney, who will be leading the discussions. We've been celebrating three wonderful artists this year: Katie Madison, who we were thrilled to present on Thursday; Jalen Livingston, who was last night; and Ernie Da Silva, who we are so excited to bring to you tonight as we close out our festival. Ernie Da Silva is hardly typical in any sense of the word. He is a product of the Bushwick Projects in Brooklyn, New York, and it was on those street corners that Ernie got his first taste of life in front of a live audience. As Ernie grew, so did his love for performing. And tonight, combining pre-recorded and live video, music, and performance, this is a reading of his latest work in progress, Smoke. Enjoy, and we'll see you and Ernie afterwards.
The story begins on Ernie, who is in the outside world, walking up the street towards the staircases leading to his apartment. In his hand, he holds a paper bag with a pharmaceutical insignia on it. He mumbles as if to various passers-by. He stops short of the stairs and begins to speak in an almost unintelligible manner, one definitely impaired by chemical substances. He's fascinated by something in the sky. He's a tad irritable.
Fam, shut up talking to me, man. All right? I don't know why people buy this globe is overpopulated bullshit. We all fit here. No, I don't have to say anything about it. Ugh. Over and over with this nonsense.
Ernie suddenly notices an audience is sitting there watching him.
Wait, when did you get here? Isn't the moonlight amazing? Right? You would think it is, but the joke is on you if you don't pay attention to how those fuckers line up. 25 years ago today was their last formation like this. And because of that, this fucker. Hey, not everything is about you, okay? I'm talking here. Let me guess. Not many of you pay attention to the stars, right? Go ahead. Ignore them. See how far that enigma of an action takes you. Everybody always does. Let's just say that shit ain't lost on me. Ah, shut up, you spiritual root canal. And no, he doesn't either. He knows exactly what's going on, and unfortunately for him, so do I. And he ain't getting shit from me either. Not there's the threat ends tonight. Wait, am I sounding crazy right now? I am, aren't I? I'm not. I'm not. Do you see colors? You know, reds, blues, ancient lettering. They're on my face. They're on my trains. They're on my neighborhood. Then stop following me around. Jesus, you're like a jilted lover. Because I was confused. I couldn't even comprehend what I was looking at. Can you believe he would even have the nerve to say something like that to me? I mean, please don't think me strange, okay? It's just that, well, I'm afraid to admit it, but I hear voices. Why are you looking at me like that? Like I have testicles where my ears belong. You hear them too. See? There he is again. Shh. Really listen. You hear that? Oh, wait. Forget it, all right? I get it. You're just the latest of my hallucinations, right? Okay, I got it. Now I'm not some head case, okay? Or whatever. Forget I even said anything to you. I mean, you're not even really here, right? You're not fooling anyone. I know what's going on. Maybe we should take this conversation inside.
Ernie then turns, walks up one side of the steps, down the other, and enters his apartment. He pulls out a pill bottle from the bag he's holding, opens it up, takes a pill.
Ah, the silencer.
As the medication begins to take effect on Ernie, the world around him begins to become surreal. Walls melt into swirling colors. Clocks melt like dripping ice cream. Windows turn upside down. A light begins to come up on the full-length mirror. From within it, we now hear a clear voice coming from a hoodie-wearing, shadowy figure, Smoke, who is standing in it.
Yo, you might want to back away from that window. The fashion police are looking for that tight suit you got on.
Ernie is now in his subconscious mind. It is here where he speaks in an eloquent, crystal clear, and intelligible voice. Ernie hears the audience's reaction to Smoke.
Wait, you heard that?
You can't keep running. If I be microphone, you be amplifier.
Wait, y'all just looked at me like I had just forced a vegan to eat a whole Angus burger when I asked you that a minute ago. I mean, you were actually able to make out words this time? Like not cricket sounds. I don't understand why all of a sudden.
The moon, the planets. It's almost time.
Yeah, good luck with that. Okay, that blistering nightmare of a voice is Smoke. That's what I call mine. You probably have one too, right? A flat out pain in the ass in your head, always nagging you about what you're supposed to be doing with your
What you're
life.
supposed to be doing. I love that dumb shit.
And then when you try to do it, everything falls out of place. Right now, fuck that, man.
Yo, why you always fronting all the time with them pills? You don't find it kind of retarded that you still sound clear when you take them?
I sound clear to you, smart ass. You're not the one I'm supposed to sound off to. I mean, people in the world, they see me like yelling at garbage cans and such. They don't see what goes on in here between you and me, or did you not realize that in your infinite wisdom?
Stop fighting your purpose all the time.
No, well, you shut up twice for once, okay? About telling me what to do. Watch this. He can't help himself. Watch. That's why I keep his ass trapped in my mirror. Why? Just wait.
Do you hear the messages in your voice? Confusion blames me.
Mm-hmm.
Splashes, streaks, faded colors, twisted A, B, C's, E, T, E, R.
Bam! Come on. See? You couldn't understand that either, right?
Nah, it's simple. Remember how glorious you are. How fucking fearless you are.
Don't even buy off into that bullshit, okay? It's a lot more complicated than he's trying to make it seem. When was the first time you met your Smoke? I mean, I remember the first time I met mine. Like the first time I actually became aware of the crickets. I was 14 years old. The night was November 1st, but this wasn't no ordinary November 1st, all right? It was one day after a cop put one of my best friends in the hospital for putting up a graffiti piece on a building no one was even living in. The clouds were deep and gray over Brooklyn this night. At least that's the way they started. And they just hung over us. Me, my cousin CeeLo, and my boy Masick. A deserted train yard, man. The fences were high to get over. 18 feet. Each one of us had a pullover bag over our shoulder. Yo, bro, you see any of them? Nah, I think we good. We gotta go up, though. You gotta go up, though, last. All right, shorty? Just in case. For real, though, shorty, man. You sure you want to do this? Once we cross this fence, kid, there ain't no turning back. He was, of course, talking to me. The least experienced, the youngest of us, you know. Do I look scared to you? Nah. Like Lee said, graffiti is an art. If art is a crime, may God forgive, right? Right then, the clouds parted a bit and a full moon came peeking out from behind them. Oh, you real like that? Well, put that on something. All right, I put that on that moon and those two planets. Why planets, bro? You mean like those two stars next to it? Nah. Those are not stars. They planets. See how they don't twinkle? The veil is thin tonight, too. It'll be dope. So, ain't nobody wearing no veil. No. Like the veil between the spirit world and the regular one. Yo, shorty be bargain. I know. That's why we call them Cervids a lot, bro. Yeah. Well, you a pretty deep kid for your age, bro. Like, you're not normal. Well, we got to do this tonight, yo, because I got to do something for him. Let's go then. And I immediately bolted first. Up and over the fence through the 4-foot wide space at the top where it was missing his barbed wire. They followed. We landed on the gravel ground. No breathing. We surveyed our surroundings with that lightning quick kind of alertness, you know, like a cat that thinks it hears something. Nothing. Let's boogie, because that's my bitch right there. And after about 150 feet worth of steps, there she most definitely was. Amazon tall, 10 feet high and blank. Man, a brand newly painted white train made you feel a certain type of way. Like when you wore your brand new sneakers to the first day of school. It's blank, I said. Ha, not for long. And out came the blueprint. It was beautiful, man. The half blues, half reds that faded into orange splashes, lined with green streaks, turquoise colored diamonds that took the modern day ABCs and twisted them into an ancient yet futuristic alphabet to ultimately spell out the words ETERNALLYALIVE, eternally alive. All three of us just stared up at that train car wall illuminated by the light of the full moon and its two brothers. This blank canvas was about to become the new home for this masterpiece. That's so dope, man. I want to be that too. Be what, bro? Eternally alive. Matter of fact, if I'm lying about being tried and true, let the forever evers come and get me over my dead body. How about that? Yo, now look, shorty, man. Before we go on, count the rails with me, all right? 1, 2, 3. You see that one? You touch that rail, and your afro gonna blow all the way out. Come on, let's rock. And tape measures came out, spray paint cans started to shake and rattle. You know, fingers was getting pointed, of course. None of this was getting done by me. I mean, I was 14 years old. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. It was the first time I had ever bombed a train car. Then she started to grow up right in front of our eyes, man. Almost as if the piece always existed on that train. Like it was always there. It was just buried. Buried under that anti-camouflage of that beautiful but nonetheless one-dimensional white paint. That false coating that tried to tell the whole world that it was in a better condition as it was, as opposed to how it would be once it was joined by the vibrant, captivating colors of our souls. Well, we disagreed. The piece began to draw itself. The outline that began the letter E started to create the piece. Like seeing Masick wasn't creating anything, they were just waking it up. The outline that formed the letter E began that way. And Masick walked over to me with a spray paint can in his hand. All right, my little dude. Color the bottom spots in turquoise, all right? And I started to color the giant E that morphed into a T that yawned and opened its eyes, nudging the E next to it that grouchily shook and nudged the R. And then at N, I saw something. A teeny tiny little circle of light moving. You know, contrary to popular belief in the streets, you learn math. You learn math by common knowledge. See, all street kids are really Einsteins at geometry once we learn how to relate it to the world we live in. Allow me to elaborate. When you spraying a cone-like mist onto a 10 by 50 rectangle, a little 4-inch square, a little 4-inch circle with about a 8-inch diameter kind of means only one thing. A square, a box, a prison cell. Man, I damn near had to slap the two of them like, yo, look. And the three of us just watched as the tiny circle meandered lazily back and forth on the other side. We gotta move, son. And the mad dash started again. Metal cans clanged against each other from being shoved in bags. Tape measures got balled up and thrown in pockets, and then all of a sudden we were able to see a little bit better because that little tiny circle moved from swaying back and forth to illuminating the Tommy Hilfiger logo on Masick's dirty, paint-ridden, rugby-style shirt. Yo, we got a boogie, son. The fucking please that came from yards away, coupled with the stomping sounds of professional yet comfortable sounding shoes, pushed our running speeds up to like Olympic status. Jack, he was like, the cop was still a back a ways, right? But he was trying to gain on us. Every few seconds, we took turns glancing back over our shoulders to see how far he was. And on my last look, one of my laces caught one of the train tracks, and bam, my foot met the third rail. Oh, don't worry, it bounced off. Well, really, it felt like something pushed it off. My heart pounds even thinking about it. It was only like a split second, man, but it felt like 10 minutes. All moving life just froze. Boom. And there he was. A wisp of smoke rose up from the train track, shoving my sneaker away from the electric current and formed the shape of a body. I think it had eyes. It stared at me and it spoke.
How far will you go? Pretty far, it seems. Far enough to challenge death itself? Just to let your expression live outside of you? Interesting.
I shook off what I saw. Masick yanked me up and we kept flowing. We reached the fence. They shoved me up first. Masick followed, and halfway up the fence, CeeLo felt a hand like just a foot below him, but he successfully pulled away. We made it over the fence, ran across the street, and looked back at the fat cop screaming, "You lousy spicks," from behind his jelly donut stained badge. We just kept it moving into the dark of Cooper Projects, and we left him and his cholesterol challenged ass behind the hyperventilate by himself, and before he had time to stop wheezing and call for backup. After a few blocks, we stopped. Did you see that? See what, bro? That fucking bomba cloud you made over there? Nigga, I ain't see shit, but your mom's bugging the fuck out. If we had to tell her that you... No. I mean, you didn't hear nothing? Like, You didn't see nothing. I saw something. I saw Masik almost run right out of his underwear, kid. What the fuck you talking about? How could you tell? Them scared farts you was throwing was jet propelling your ass 10 feet in front of us. But all of a sudden, the giggles stopped dead as we found ourselves under the grips of yet another circle, the circular light of a street lamp. Under its orangey yellowish glow, another circle grabbed us by the collar. Yo, Masik, look at this. I had a black burnt edge circular hole that now existed where a big chunk of my sneaker used to be. Man, a split second longer of my foot attached to that rail, and this night would have been completely different. And this choking feeling came down my lungs like my lungs were filling up with puffs from a Newport, because that staring smoke mess back there was in all three of our minds that night. Just like the world right now has every single member of this audience's mind saying exactly the same thing. How far will you go? Far enough to challenge death itself and win? Or just to let your expression live outside of you? We all hear it. And none of us speaks a word, while the sound of crickets rule the moment, almost like we hoping in their chirpy innocence, they'll answer that question, but it's us that has to answer. The only way we knew how to answer, honestly. Will I go that far? And I swallowed every drop of fear in my throat, and I looked at Masik. We gotta go back. You mean back home, shorty, man? Like, you almost didn't even make it. It ain't finished. You limping, kid. You literally on one foot, son. I don't care, man. Yo, bro, you bugging, man. We gotta get back. We gotta get you back home, bro. I can't lose you right now. Nah, fuck that. You bugging, bro. I already gotta see it finished. If y'all niggas ain't gonna come, give me the cans. I'll go by myself. Shorty, we'll have to come back another day. You don't got nothing to prove. And let me tell you something else, man. All right? Yo, you too smart, and you're gonna make it out of here for us one day. Nah, we gotta keep you safe, bro. That asshole that beat Audi up is not gonna win, period. I'm going. Damn, fine, kid. Let's go then. It's been about half an hour, man. That cop might be gone by now. So we trooped it back up the 3 blocks to the train yard, only to find 7 squad cars parked near the fence where we climbed up through. There were about 10 cops walking around and talking. It took everything I had to mute the tears forming in the back of my throat. Fuck, man. I just looked up at that moon, at those non-twinkling planets, and just wondered how I somehow have brought the pain of this fucking failed night on myself, man. About what it even meant to be, or at least feel eternally alive. And I figured it out. When you call out to stars at the right time, they echo back. And those inhabitants way up there, the forever evers, yeah, they answer. And that's exactly the problem. You see what it brings? Smoke just throws me into the light, man, the place where I see too much.
Appropriate. Life incubates in places that challenge us to see, like the moon did that night.
You see, that's exactly the type of shit that you say that fills my heart with spikes, man, and broken glass. Every time I agree to fight, I gotta start hearing confusing shit like that. I gotta start having all of these arguments with, like,
the facts.
That's an ugly word.
Nothing compared to the ugliness you live with. About that little story you just told.
Burn, all right?
Me burn. Because you left the painting unfinished.
Shut up.
Your feelings unfinished.
Shut
Your
up.
goal unfinished.
Fuck off. You could have not manifested a cop that night, you lousy traitor.
You could be choosing to understand the many pieces to the words eternally alive, and how you called me with them.
What's the damn mystery here, Smoke? We live in the hood. There's all kinds of crazy beliefs flying around this place. Jehovah's Witnesses who think only 144,000 out of 7 billion people is going to heaven. Santeras who wear white for a whole year, even during New York winters. I mean, Catholics who seriously believe the priest turns their dollar store Boone's Farm wine into blood on Sundays, and Pentecostals who basically dress like Latin Quakers. I mean, I call for the Forever Evers to come and get me if I wasn't telling the truth about wanting to put Eternally Alive up that night. It happened right before I put my first spray can mark on it, and bam, there you were. This ain't rocket science, Smoke. Lucky for me, though, the good doctors, or at least one of the crooked ones I know anyway, they've given me real friends to keep your ass in line with.
True. But you forget one thing. Using those to trap me in here to keep you from speaking plain truth to the world. Yeah, they may work for that. But you can't ever escape me. Being locked in here with me alone only amplifies my voice. Now, doesn't it?
True. But it just tears you up inside that I won't let you out, doesn't it? Mm-hmm.
You could be such a brat.
What? Did we just go back to kindergarten? Like, what are you gonna do next? Call me a stupid head?
You're just so ungrateful.
Do tell.
I was a gift
And a curse.
I've done so much for you.
And to me.
See, your problem is you don't know how to draw the line. Don't know how to go light or when to go dark. Or blend them. Why don't you just call her?
It's off limits. You know that it is.
You just can't help leaving the painting undone.
You deaf? We're not talking about my daughter. That's off limits. We're not talking about her. That's it, period.
Okay, fine. Why don't you just throw me in jail? Well, wait.
Yeah, good. I'm glad we understand each other.
You don't even understand what it means to be us.
Us?
You call to me. And as your creative process, I come to you and cut you up. But it has to be when I want. In the morning, the evening. Sometimes I would wake you up out of your sleep in the middle of the night just to gash and cut at your soul. Facts. But look at what you bleed. Words and phrases that just dug into the people's bones, barreled their way into the minds of men, clawed into the libidos of women, young and old. You repay me with imprisonment?
Yeah.
Well, Junior, this creative impulse is millions of years old. You can't restrain me forever.
I don't need to keep you there forever, Smoke. Just through tonight. What? Did you think I wouldn't realize the moon and the planets were in exactly the same place as they were the night we met? Let me just get this straight. Tonight is the last night they'll be exactly there during my lifespan, correct? Uh-huh. So now I really have you, you bastard. You have tonight left with me, tonight only, to tell me exactly who you are and why you've been here with me. Come on, TikTok. All I have to do is say that forever ever's line.
Yeah,
again.
yeah, yeah. Well, go ahead then. Say it. What's wrong? Go ahead. You know exactly what you need to say. Say it. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. You are clear. You need me, boy.
No. See, my silence is very simple. It's not 1:30 yet. That's around what time it was when I said it that night. By my clock, it's only 7:30. So once the time is parallel, I spit the verse and you go right back to wherever the fuck it is you came from.
Okay,
right?
okay.
Yep.
You want to play cowboy cop.
Uh-huh.
Good. Why don't we just go to square one then? So go ahead. Stop being a coward. Ask me that question. Always bold enough to rail against me, call me names and threaten my spiritual being. But the courage stops there, huh? Yeah, I never understood how people fall so far into Western cultural thinking that they become so terrified of their own spiritual power. You want to ask? You always have. Ask.
Fine. How did the eternally alive piece end up fully finished on that train car that night?
I think that's the first honest question you ever asked me. So I'll start like this. How could it not?
That on my way home that night, after the boys thought they were dropping me off, I went back to the porch down the hall, and there was a bag of spray paint cans just laying there. Was that you?
When a person takes one step, the universe takes two.
Well, here's the part of it that's blurry to me, man. The rest of the night wasn't clear.
That's not unusual, believe it or not.
The next morning, I had paint all over my fingernails. Mastic called me. I could tell he was baffled, telling me he saw the piece finished on the side of the J train when it was riding by. The first thing I did was hang up and check my sneaker again, and that burned hole on the side of it was still there. So I know we didn't hallucinate what happened the night before. Me, him, and C agreed to not even ever speak about it.
Well, let me help you out. For starters, it didn't just come out of nowhere. You watched Audi draw that whole thing before. Remember?
Yeah.
You watched him do it for 3 days.
Know, but that doesn't matter, man. I never put a piece up before.
Irrelevant.
Answer the question. So it was me and you?
Yes.
Yeah, see, I knew it. This is some devil shit.
What a joke. People watch too many movies. Besides, if I were the devil, would you be able to trap me in this mirror with pharmaceuticals?
Fine, okay? Humor me. How was it you and me then?
Simple recipe, actually. In 3 parts. Because when you have brotherly love for someone like you do for him, it opens a human up. Now, couple that with the loving power he was expressing for your mother through the drawing, and add the element number 3, crisis came along. All those together slide you into what a lot of artists refer to as the zone. When you choose to express adoration like that, you can make your creative voice accomplish anything, even the impossible. Now ask yourself, how would any devil fit into an equation centered in love? No. This is all about the true power of human creativity.
Why would you even care?
Because as soon as you and I bonded,
Yeah, like athlete's foot, we bonded.
as soon as you and I bonded, no one was ever going to silence you again. Besides you, of course.
God, this whole thing is just not normal.
Normal? Why would you want to be that? People don't remember normal. The piece didn't say eternally forgettable.
Ernie goes over and looks out the window. He immediately gets wound up again. His speech begins to distort and slur.
Ooh. Look, it's one of them crazy ass, me am American patriot, hear me roar rallies. Take a look. I bet you anything at least 10 people got old cow horns.
So what, man? People should have the right to think whatever they want.
Yeah, what a nauseatingly normal thing to say.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to emphasize.
What's next? You gonna light candles, stand in front of me daily while you look me straight in the eye and repeat, every day, in every way, I'm getting better and better. Until you zombify yourself into thinking it's real.
Normal is just easier, man.
Except contradiction alert. Let's recap for the people in the back. You take illegally prescribed medications you don't actually have any medical justification for taking, which in turn makes you a crazy guy on the street corner who yells at garbage cans so you can look more normal. Survey says, faking the funk alert.
Yeah, I do, all right. I haven't worked out the right alchemy, okay?
Yeah, well, let me start by asking you this question. That craziness going on outside, it's becoming the new normal. Is that what you're trying to harmonize with?
If I decide to, yeah.
Your neck had slice wounds. The normal way. Latin guys in the neighborhood were considered more handsome because how flat out delicate they dressed. When in truth, they wore so much cologne it smelled like Cardi B's underwear drawer. All the while, their hair, jeans, and shoes, they were so tight enough to make them more prone to yeast infections more than their own girlfriends. Whew. Is that the normal you're lamenting over?
Yeah.
Yo, what are all those birthday parties your mom's forced you to go to? Celebrating kids you ain't even like. Because it was the right thing to do. No. Remember Tasso Jones?
Oh my God, I hated that kid. That dickhead stole my baseball glove.
Right?
Oh, everybody hated that little ingrown ass hair. You know, we used to joke about how dry his knuckles always were because he was constantly punching on people. And then, no, my mom doesn't stop there either.
She embarrassed you. You remember?
Yeah, man, since we were broke, she thought it would be a sweet sentiment if I wrote a damn poem about our friendship.
But she ain't actually read it beforehand. You remember that poem?
Of course. Roses are red, violets are blue. Tasso, give me my glove back that you stole, you goddamn thief, you.
In the middle of the party. Yo, that was G.
No. The best part was the silence that fell over the room. Because they all agreed with me. Everyone knew what he was.
You were 7 years old when you wrote that poem.
Yeah, one of my best works to date. Because Lisa Velez was like the cutest girl on the block, right? The next day at school, she walked over to me and whispered, "That was so funny and cute." And then she kissed me on the cheek and ran off.
Yo, because of that poem, your mom started really being reluctant about taking you places you didn't want to go because she knew she knew she was afraid that you might say something. I mean, after a while, all the people in your life has started respecting that too. Why? You were already realizing this world is full of people faking. You know, just going along to get along.
Yeah, well, it hasn't changed much.
Truth. That is just another hidden way certain people keep trying to keep the peace on a train unfinished. Trying to keep the colors invisible.
What colors?
Latinos, Black, Chinese, and Muslims. I mean, you know, those that some call the others, woke whites, women's rights, and Jews with long sight.
You know, stupidity is a common trait in this country.
Yeah, I dare say it's normal even. Let me ask you a question. Would you ever treat a dog like a cat?
The fuck kind of question is that?
One that will help me get this point out that I'm trying to make. Would you?
No, I wouldn't.
Then why not embrace, you know, how well you treat those snakes out there like snakes? I mean, humor me. If everyone in that rally were forced to sit and listen to you spout off, what would you say? I mean, there's nothing to worry about, right? It's only you, me, and this imaginary audience. No one is really going to hear you.
It would appear this alt-right plight tries to cloak itself in the same sheeped-up wolvish sweater. Freedom of speech. When you really mean freedom to be disrespectful to whoever. Mexicans are plenty fans of rape and murder. Muslim bans protect us from dirty tan hands soaked in child rape and diseased sheep herders. This kind of freedom of speech you find helpful. Nah. Sounds like the First Avenue bar you chew and chew on just to be disrespectful. Okay, well then here's my freedom of speech. Republican retardos resembling Where's Waldo, busy following raspy voice internet twits who have lost a good portion of their wits, into punching women in Berkeley, seem to have forgotten this card though. People like me can master the art of disrespect by far, so here goes. If you mean freedom to be disrespectful, then just say that. It ain't hard to tell. I mean, your egos will fall as you try to protect Tommy Loren and Ann Coulter's calls to stop the browning of their country, but not the browning of their sugar walls. We see you. I mean, we should forgive you and all. You're just a racial dole is all. Hypocrisy, the third eye can see by the netful. Hence, your freedom of speech means nothing more than your demonic need to be openly disrespectful and never meet a consequence. Milo Yiannopoulos, I mean the epitome of clown-filled spectacle, attempting to justify your non-racism by citing your mass consumption of black testicles. Obvious, your perception of the brown body is warped. But let's be disrespectful though. You don't know that don't get you cool points? That we're too awake to mellow on stupidity of that latitude. See, when we call out your white racism, we ain't talking about your skin color or your bedfellows. We mean your attitude. Good morning. So no, we hold no gratitude for your forked tongue. I mean, for all your chit-chattering that seems to support Black Lives Not Mattering, you couldn't seem to keep from marrying one. Watch your spin or get spun. In fact, try running your statements and your ideas by Farrakhan. See how far that gets you, hun. Let me save you the suspense. You would get checked like Mike fool, for your cloaked attempts at being openly disrespectful.
Wow, another evening, another beautiful piece of work. Wow, thank you so much, Ernie. Thank you so much, Crossroads. I am Aaron L. McKinney. I'm the Interim Executive Director of High Arts, calling from Lenape land, known as New York City now, and so extremely excited to be here tonight with you all as part of this Genesis Festival. Grateful that Ricardo asked High Arts to partner with Crossroads on this event, and it has been, wow, it has been just so wonderful, interacting, engaging with these artists, hearing these artists work, seeing their works in development. It has been absolutely wonderful. So we're here at the last night, unfortunately, can't believe it. And here with Ernie Da Silva. This is a Brooklyn-born, LA-based actor, musician, spoken word artist, hip-hop head. He holds a bachelor's in acting from Southern Illinois University at Edwardsville and an MFA from the University of Southern California, where he was awarded the only full scholarship in his class. Wow. It was his time at USC that Ernie developed his award-winning show, Heavy Like the Weight of a Flame. And Smoke, the work that you heard tonight, is a sequel to Heavy. When Ernie is not on stage, you can find him teaching theater to incarcerated youth and teens around the inner city of Los Angeles. Ladies and gentlemen and everyone, please welcome Ernie Da Silva.
Yeah, boy.
Oh, wow. Hello.
Hey.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Ernie, my first question for you is just, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and your journey till today, up until today?
Oh, wow. Okay. How much time do we have?
Whatever you got, man. Whatever you want.
Well, obviously, like you said, I was born and raised in Bushwick Projects, and when you grow up in areas like that, you see solo performers everywhere that are not, they're just not official. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not that unusual to be on a street corner with your boys and have somebody run up and be like, yo, you never gonna believe what just happened. And then watch this whole story unfold with like characters and voices and comedy and all that kind of stuff. So it just felt kind of like a natural progression. And I started doing stand-up comedy when I was about 16. That was the first time I had ever gone on stage. And I did that for a few years. And then I left home on my like Jack Kerouac fantasies through my 20s and did everything from freight train hopping to caravanning, hitchhiking, that kind of stuff. Gathered up a whole bunch of experiences and then went back to New York City and started acting because I studied theater in school. And then I found solo show work through, I think it was the second hip hop theater festival ever, because I was one of the cast members of a 3-person show called Mama's Boys, that Danny Hawk had asked to come do the festival. And on the opening night of the festival, I got to see this opening night performance that had a bunch of solo show artists doing like 2 monologues out of their shows. And that night it was Danny, Will Powers, Jonesy D, Lemon Anderson was there with Universes because he was with Universes at the time. I saw Sarah Jones do 2 monologues from her show. Nilaj Sun was also in that festival doing the early remnants of her solo work, right? So who else? I feel like I'm missing someone. So please, I saw Leguizamo do a stage reading of Sexaholic in front of a room of like 25 people during that festival. So
Wow.
when I saw that, see, because I do a lot of stuff. Like I play classical guitar and I do a lot of character acting. And sometimes, you know, you don't want to be funny.
Mm.
You know, sometimes your creative voice is like it wants to say something that may not end with a punchline. And when I saw that genre, I was like, that's it. I was like, that's my genre right there, because everything that I do can live within that genre comfortably. So that's the cliff notes to it all, but that's kind of where it started at.
And wow, you dropped some names. You dropped some foundational names of High Hop Theater Festival.
Aaron, do you happen to know a gentleman by the name of Brian Satz?
Absolutely.
All right. Brian and I met during that festival. That is my dude, man. Like, that is my brother. You know,
Yeah.
when you mentioned the other day that you worked for Harry Belafonte, I was like, he has to know B.
That's what man,
He
right?
has to know B. Yeah, that's my man right there. He's also a hip hop theater festival alumni. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Just speaking about this work, can you talk about this particular work, Smoke? Can you talk about your process of writing? Because there is spoken word. I mean, we didn't see it, but we know I know there's music in it. You know, you paint these visual pictures, and I know you also working, you know, with the graphic artist, and then just like the lines, the text, the script. Can you talk about your process writing this script? What came first, or how did you form this piece?
Copy. Well, it's been kind of a sorted pathway, if you will, where Smoke was concerned, because like, okay, so Heavy Like the Weight of a Flame was my first solo show, because when you're doing solo work, you have options, right? Like, are you going to be the type of solo artist that picks up a character, does an entire monologue, drops that character, picks up another character, and does a completely different monologue? Now, that's one format, right? A la Whoopi Goldberg, some of Leguizamo's early work. Danny Hock works like that, you know. Or are you going to be the type of storyteller that is attempting to tell a narrative while along the way playing a bunch of different characters, right? So first I had that choice to make, right? That was the first part of the process, like which format do I live best in? Well, obviously, as it turns out, the format of creating a long form narrative that I can pop in and out of characters on fit my abilities the best. So that was the way I chose to go. After that, you know, writing long form narrative is it's not as easy as it may seem. You know what I mean? Because there are points that you have to hit, because it's almost like, I don't want to get too esoteric about it, but you know, it's almost as if the human kind of animal or the human soul already understands what points belong in a story. And if you don't know what those are, then you kind of leave the audience hanging in certain regards. So I began to study the hero's journey, right? All the points of the hero's journey. So when I conceived of Smoke, I also I always saw Heavy as the first part of a trilogy, and Smoke was the second part of the trilogy. So Heavy, when you see Heavy, it's also serial comic. Heavy was like the coming of age story where the character realizes that he has a voice. Well, Smoke, as Brother Rick and I were talking about before the broadcast, Smoke asked the question, okay, well, what happens when you decide to use it? What happens to a person when they decide to use that voice? Well, as serendipity would have it, if you will, the last 5 years of this country just happened, right? And I think everybody was getting asked that question on steroids. Like, do I speak up? Do I not speak up? right? And what does that mean for each individual person? And so smoke started to be birthed out of that idea, right? Because I'm of the opinion acting is weird. Like the study of acting is weird and the study of writing is weird because it's like in acting, for example, you spend all of this time in your life um, uh, rehearsing or studying so that you can play other people, right? But the irony of it is that the deeper you go into yourself, the more you become like everyone else, right? Which is why certain characters resonate more on a universal tone than some other ones. And I needed to try and make sure that this story could have been about anyone in the room. So I chose this character who is a political activist who has decided to mute for his own life reasons. He's decided to mute his own voice via the use of pharmaceuticals because pharmaceuticals is obviously a big hot topic, hot button topic in our country, in the world, really, in this day and age. So I thought that that could be a window for the audience. And also, I wanted to take somebody who seems like someone who's completely overlooked. So now he looks like this person who's homeless. He's seems incensed. He's yelling outside in the streets at garbage cans and, street corners and things of that nature. But I was like, what if those people that we see like that are actually having a really eloquent, thoughtful, and intelligent conversation inside? And all we see is, right? So it's like, what happens if we go inside that person's brain? What's happening? Bam, there was smoke, right? There was the idea of smoke, right? So he's the fact that he's fighting with his creative voice, I hoped anyway, was something that everyone can relate to in one frame or another, right? Because you don't have to be an artist to be at war with yourself at all, right? Especially not in a socio-political climate that's as inflammatory as the one that we live in. So that's basically like a sort of long form way of trying to describe what smoke was like. Now, in terms of putting fingers to keyboards, I had been trying to write smoke and it had iterations for the last 2 years, 2.5 years. But then I came across High Arts, who had found my work through a really dear friend of mine by the name of Baye Harold. Do you know Baye as well? Right? That's another one of my brothers. He came to see an early version of Smoke, and he was like, "Hey, you should reach out to High Arts. They used to be the Hip Hop Theater Festival." I was like, "Oh, I know that organization. Like, I knew Camila Forbes way back when, and all. So I did, and Aaron and Raymond Codrington, they were kind enough to entertain the discussion with me about possibly developing the script. And I had, for the first time in my life as an artist, I actually had a laboratory setting that had all of the elements that I needed to develop the story. So I worked with a dramaturg by the name of Candido Tirado, who is a brilliant writer himself and a wonderful director who I had worked on at Mama's Boys. And he helped me finally bring the story to a place where it is a cognitive, easily understandable story, and that's kind of, our stories in this are always a work in progress. So that's where we are at this moment, that's where it is at the moment.
I do want to ask, Aaron, when you say an easily understandable story, you have two characters in this, Ernie. Mm-hmm. And are you suggesting, from what you're saying about are you suggesting that it's one person? That's my question. That what we look at, what we see on the street, is one thing, but without the smoke, it's another. I'm asking that only because I find your imagery incredibly powerful, and I think that the whole idea of a person fighting his, all of the elements, the universal elements, to get to a train car, to be able to lay his or her expression onto something that is white without color in a world like today is a powerful image, right? It's a really powerful image, and I just want to know where you're going with it and how I mean, is that part of one person, or is it part of smoke, or is it who is that person? Because you're fighting one person who wants to do this on the train car, and you're fighting another who's fighting the norm, what they consider the norm. I think you said. Where are you headed with the metaphors? That's what I'm trying to get at.
Wow. First off, thank you so much for catching that, because I fully intended for that descriptive moment to be a commentary on where we are, especially now societally, right? That the train, if for lack of a better way to put it, the system or the organized government around us, or what have you, however we can phrase it properly, is trying to convince the world that the plain white train is at its highest level of beauty, that it needs to be untouched, that it needs to remain that way. And I always thought of graffiti the same way a lot of artists in the streets throughout the years thought of it, that it's like, well, no, this is our stamp, and if we can give a reflection of the vibrant colors that we represent, then we will make this train more beautiful. And now it gets to travel around the city where people will see it everywhere. So my expressive voice gets to be seen and heard everywhere, right? So I to answer your question, I hope that everyone is conscious of that struggle, whether we sit on one side of the fence or not, right? Which is what I'm hoping makes the moment tangible to anyone who would be listening, right? Because maybe there are some people, like I've come across people in my shows who sit on the traditionally termed conservative side of things, which would represent that train untouched, right? And then I've obviously come across a myriad of people who would represent the colorful side of things, meaning artists and, what people would traditionally term leftists or what have you. I mean, I don't believe in those terms, but that's a whole different, I actually go into that in the show. So I was giving that, hoping to give that moment to the audience for them to kind of contemplate what side they feel they're on, in hopes that later on throughout the show, it's like, no, there is no side, man. There is no left, there's no right, there's no conservative, there's no liberal, there's none of that. There is just you attempting to establish your voice in the world, whatever that might mean. Once you understand that, you figure out we're all the same. Or I mean, that's an ABC block way of putting it, but I hope I'm making my...
You are. Absolutely. Thank you.
Ernie, I just want to go back to something you touched on, because we're talking about, developing work in this time, all that stuff, and talking about the, the residency you had at High Arts. I mean, that conversation started, what, a year and a half ago?
Yeah.
Can you talk a little, really briefly about, by the time you did get to develop the work, which was during the pandemic, what that process was like? Because normally when we talk about residencies, we're talking about people being in the same room,
right,
and working on it. So can you talk about developing this work during pandemic, during being socially distanced, and also you being across the country?
Right.
And so who were the people involved? How were they involved? And how did you develop work not being in the same room?
Wow, that's a great question, actually, because you know, we had planned a year in advance, right, for me to be in New York City to have the residency at the High Arts Space, and then the entire world got sick, right? So it as an artist, I'm very as many artists are, I'm sure, I'm very mercurial. Like, I'm constantly moving and here, and like I'm there. I mean, even my thoughts, right? I mean, specifically my thoughts and my creative impulses. I'm kind of constantly, oh, but let me reshape this, and oh, but let me tear this apart, and oh, this sucks, and right. When the pandemic hit and High Arts approached me to still do the residency, it forced me to be still. Like, it forced me to have to go, okay, no, you are going to sit in this beaker, right? You're going to sit in this beaker, and you're going to figure out the chemistry of this thing, right? To add to that, I also got sick for 2 weeks. The exact 2 weeks of the High Arts residency, I contracted coronavirus, right? So now, on top of the fact that I was locked into a room, it felt as though I was doubly being challenged now to go, okay, now, not only that, but can you write in a metaphorical environment that equates to the story you're attempting to tell? Right? Because now I'm in a struggle internally, and I still have to create, right? Like, I still have, it's like, nope, you have 10 days. You have this time frame every day. You got to show up on time. You got to be ready to work. You got to do this. And I'm also kind of a overachiever in a way. So we would work 4 hours a day. And then after those 4 hours, I would eat, rest, get up, and write into the late hours of the night in preparation for the next day. So I was in the midst of this whole kind of restrictive, can you still get your voice out correctly in the midst of being clamped? And I think that that the residency was golden in that regard, because I felt an obligation to you all. I was like, I haven't had anyone really step in and I mean, I haven't had anyone step in and that didn't already know me and decide that they wanted to invest in me as an artist like that. So I was like, there is no possible way that I'm blowing this opportunity. It's just not going to happen. I don't care how bad this gets, right? Luckily, I was one of the fortunate ones. It never got it was miserable. Don't get me wrong. Like, that thing, whoa. I don't know if any of you experienced it, but it was miserable, right? But it was never debilitating, right? So it allowed me to at least stay in the game. And High Arts kind of served as like, like my sled dogs. Like, nope, let's go. We got to go to the next thing. We got to go to the next thing. Look, we have 10 days. We got to get this thing done. That's, you know what I mean? And that took the script to an entirely different place that I couldn't take it on my own, before that time frame. So, that was beyond ungodly timing on you all's part. And it was tough to pull off, but I'm really happy with where the script is. Really happy with it.
I do want to say that everything I have learned, because I am just learning about High Arts and enjoying the partnership, the meeting that we're having right now, and looking forward to whatever is going to happen next. But what I value so much is what you just described, Ernie. The fact that whether somebody knows you or not, there's somebody there telling you, we invest in you, not just we like you, but we invest in you.
Yeah.
That's the thing that High Arts did, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So it does get me wondering. Maybe this is a crazy question, right? But
Oh, please.
well, I mean, just with what you were dealing with for those specific 2 weeks, did the phrase eternally alive change in definition for you?
Ooh. Ooh. Wow. That's a great question. No. And I'll tell you why, because
Mhm.
at the core of what I believe that phrase to mean didn't belong to me in the first place.
Mm. Mm.
So
Mm. Enough said. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. I wasn't expecting that answer. Wow. Wow. One of the lines that really stood out to me in the piece, Ernie, was or when is the first time you heard, or when is the first time you met your smoke? And I know you said, you know, you wrote this so that it can apply to anybody that hears it. What would you want people to investigate? What would you want people to question when they think about their smoke?
well, that's a really good question. What would I want them to investigate? There is a line that Smoke says to the main character. I mean, I'm reluctant to call him Ernie, even though, you know, like I'm the one performing it and stuff, right? Because I never call him, I never call myself by name, because that's one of the reasons, that's one of the kind of vehicles that I try to use to make it about anyone. So he never calls me by first name or anything like that, or anything name actually. But um there is a moment when they realize that the alt-right rally is going on outside outside the front of his building. And Ernie, or my character, turns to Smoke and he says, "Do you know what this is?" When he's meaning, you know, he's being very literal in that moment. Like, this means that the block's gonna be tied up all night, and Smoke hits him with something different, and he says, "Yeah, I do. It means that you're going to have to start looking at relatives and friends and family members and things of that nature in a light you never saw them in before, and decide that you may have to cut them out of your life," and all kinds of sword strokes like that. I'm paraphrasing what Smoke says, but I feel like that was, for me, an opportunity to let Smoke think for the audience in that moment. Because again, in the last 4.5 years of the socio-political climate in this country, there is not a person, you know, with even a modicum of consciousness, and I don't even mean consciousness like deep thought, I mean just really looking around the world at all, that is not faced with that question. I mean, I can't count the number of conversations that I've had with people in the last few years where they're like, you know, I can't believe my uncle thinks like that. Oh, I can't believe my mom believes that shit. Or I can't believe, oh, sorry about that. Or I can't, you know, believe that my sister's husband is this. And now I got to decide whether or not, you know, I want that person in my life. And then I have to make the decision to actually do that. Man, that's everybody's smoke right now, right? Because there's the metaphoric, like, Smoke was the name of the character that I'm arguing with, but smoke was also a metaphor for what's in the air right now. And
Smoke gets in your eyes, man.
yeah, you know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
why, you know, the metaphor when he's at the train yard and he's choking and he says, like, I felt like my lungs were filling up with a Newport cigarette. Well, he's not smoking a cigarette. He's being confronted by the realization he's about to have, right? And I feel like in one regard or another, that line for me embodied what I felt like everyone was thinking right now. You know, do I continue looking at my father the same way, knowing that all of these years he was harboring this ideology or that one, or you know what I mean? So I felt like I was hoping that was, I didn't know that I necessarily wanted the audience to take that away with them, more so than I hoped that it was yet another place where the audience could go, oh, I understand this character's story. Because I'm going through that myself.
You know,
You
it's
know,
so
so
wild because when you mentioned a Newport cigarette, because I used to smoke, and of course, being black, it had to be a menthol, but it was, but it was
it's a
specific.
law.
It
It's a
was
law.
specifically targeted to us, is what
Right.
I'm getting at. That's the smoke.
Absolutely.
It was targeted to us.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. I mean, I was more of a Benson and Hedges when I smoked years ago. I don't anymore, but but yeah, menthol.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's the rule.
it's the rule.
Just because I know you, I'm going to ask a kind of personal question. And this this relates to I asked Katie on Thursday
Mhm.
what she would how she would start a love letter to her 12-year-old self.
Oof.
I'm going to twist that a little bit.
Mhm.
If your son told you he wanted to be an artist, what would you say to him? How would you shepherd that dream?
Well, I think first I would ask him what he meant by that, right? Because especially when you're that young, there are miscommunications. Like, do you mean a famous actor? Do you mean a famous musician? Do you mean a famous, right? Because fame and artistry, as we know, don't necessarily make for bedfellows. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of people right now who are successful musicians who are not doing anything any of the three of us in this discussion couldn't do. There's a difference between artistry and a career. So first I would ask what you meant by that. If he gave me an answer that said that seemed to have any kind of, like, for lack of a better terminology, some kind of spiritual depth, I'd be like, okay, um, first off, if that's the first thing you're thinking about every day, you're kind of already one to start with. And you probably need to buckle up for what the life of an actual artist is like, because there's a reason why there's a long seated history of us seeming like we're insane. You know what I mean? There's a very good reason for that, because we're not. But you're going to be viewed that way. So maybe we should start prepping for that, and then I try to encourage him to be a lawyer or something. Probably.
Wow. Thank you. Yeah, that whole insane. I've been listening to Cicely Tyson's book,
Wow.
audiobook, and the way she talks about Miles Davis and talks about herself and how the roles like literally take over her body.
Yeah.
I would recommend anybody, if you have not read Cicely Tyson's or listened to her book, it's it's a lot.
Well, you know what's interesting about that? I need some water. If I may make a quick comment about that, you know the moment in Smoke where he's like, "How did the piece get finished?" And Smoke is like, and he goes, "See, I knew it. This is some devil shit." And Smoke responds, "What a joke, man. People watch too many movies. Like, if I was the devil, would you be able to trap me in your mirror with pharmaceuticals?" Right? The reason that I specifically put that line in there was because I think artists get a bad rap in that regard, because artistry is such a visceral thing that it's easy to write people off who are great at what they do by saying, "Oh, well, that person was possessed." No, they weren't possessed by anything. They were gifted, is what it was. You know what I mean? So it speaks directly to what you were just talking about, and thought I would share that.
Absolutely. So unfortunately, Ernie, Rick, it's time to
Oh man.
Oh man.
I have a whole page of questions, but we'll continue it at another time for sure.
But Ernie,
I loved it.
let the viewers know how they can follow you, how they can keep up with your work, how they can find out more about you.
Well, you can find me on Instagram at lifechild777. That's my Instagram handle. That's probably the best way of finding what I'm doing, because I'm starting to try to become better at using social media for this sort of stuff.
That's cool. Give it to us one more time then, Ernie.
Oh yeah, that's Lifechild777. You know, so it's LIFECHILD 777.
Okay.
It was a name a Jamaican Rastafarian gave me when I used to play hooky from work and hang out with him in Harlem when I was in high school.
I want to thank you, man. I want to thank you for the work. I really think the rest of the questions that I have, Ernie, have to do with, well, what does this look like in production? And I guess that's our next step, is how do we get there?
Oh yeah, I have a lot of ideas.
Yeah. Okay. Good. But we'll continue to talk for sure.
Sweet deal.
Yeah, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you, Rick. Brother Aaron, man, I love you, partner. You already know. Thank you so much for even giving me a window and an opportunity. You know, Crossroad folks, I'm so honored to, you know, have gotten this opportunity to rock with y'all, and you know, faithfully we'll get to do it again at some point in person, who knows. But thank you. I'm humbled to have gotten the opportunity to rock with you.
Fantastic, man. It's our pleasure. The Genesis Festival has been going on since 1990, right?
Wow.
Started by a woman named Sidney Mahone. And it's been about just providing opportunities for the writer not to have the voice, but to hear it. And whether or not it's finished or not, that doesn't matter. The fact that we have had the opportunity to partner this year with High Arts is really special, because what you said about people giving you a chance when they don't even know where it's going to go, that isn't that really the purpose we're in the theater in the first place?
Absolutely.
Right? To support each other that way. So this has been great for Crossroads in terms of the legacy of Genesis, but also to get to know you, Aaron, and High Arts, and all of the artists you're involved with, and Ernie, man. Just wanting so badly to follow where you're going, and hope that we can become a part of that somehow. Thank you.
That would be dope. You know, when you said the thing about being finished, like, what does that ever mean, right?
Exactly.
I mean, I bet you, you know, Hamlet is a world-renowned script, and I bet you if we could somehow reincarnate, you know, William Shakespeare, he'd be like, but I gotta finish Hamlet. Like, I ruined it. You know what I mean? I bet you he would be like, no, I don't know what you guys are all talking about, but I ruined the ending. And
just
Ophelia,
one more thing.
Ophelia had no arc. Ophelia had no arc. I gotta finish Ophelia's arc. She has no arc. You know what I mean?
Oh man. Let's find Ernie's arc. Let's follow it. Thank you, Aaron.
Absolutely. And again, thank you, Rick. Thank you, Crossroads.
Yes.
Thank you, New Jersey Theater Alliance. Of course, Ernie. Absolutely. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And this was absolutely amazing, Rick. Loved, you know, partnering with y'all. Loved, you know, giving the artists the opportunity to present this work, and just love the network that we have just created. I mean, you know, just bringing these three artists together who didn't know each other, and to have them in conversation on Wednesday. So just extending the network.
Aaron, we don't have to wait on anybody to do that. You know what I'm saying? We don't have to look at anybody. We don't have to see. All we have to do is see ourselves and see what we're able to do together. I've loved this. I thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, brothers.
All right.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone. Thank